Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 360 Experience. I'm your host, Tim Braheem. Today is sure to be a valuable session as it relates to understanding not just how to be a successful loan originator and the tools that are necessary to executing on that, but the mindset, the temperament, and the belief systems associated with doing this job at a high level. My guest today is a friend, a colleague, a client, but most importantly, a friend. His name is Ryan Grant. I think most of you probably know who Ryan Grant is. If you don't, you're going to be looking him up after this conversation. Ryan's a pioneer in the mortgage industry. I mean, he and his partners at Neo Home Loans and Tribe Coaching are blazing some really great trails to help people. He's been in the business 17 years. Was number one mortgage professional in Orange County when he was living there. He's now living in Park City, Utah. I don't really have anything other to say other than just enjoy this chat, that he and I have. It's just two guys getting together and having a conversation, and we hope that you enjoy it. What's up, man?
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Good. How's Utah?
It is a really special place. I was literally just walking. I'm working from home and I was walking over here and I was like, this actually feels like home now, right? Like we've only been in the house for 6 weeks, but like the house, it's not going to be our long-term house. We're just renting it, but like, it just feels like the place we should be, which is interesting after only 6 weeks,
Yeah, I've had that feeling before in my life when the last house I moved into, the one you'd been to in Thousand Oaks.
Yeah.
Like that place felt like home after like 2 weeks to me and felt like home until the day I left. Isn't that a bitchin' feeling?
That place felt like home, like when I was my second day there. I was like, wow, this place is awesome.
Yeah, I miss that place. It was time to move on, but you learn from maybe moving on when you don't need to. It's like It's like leaving something you love and realizing later, like I think I loved it more than I did. So, right. But I'm glad that you guys are having a good time. And that place is kind of tailor made for you. It feels like the mountains are kind of your thing. Like you grew up in the mountains when you were younger. Tell me a bit about when you were younger. Like I don't know anything about your childhood.
Really? I thought we talked about this.
I mean, a little bit, but
yeah, there
are listeners too. Don't forget.
I grew up in Sonora, by Yosemite.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
So, we would always be either skiing, like wakeboarding.
Like, how many people live there?
Not a lot. I think there was like 12,000 people in the whole town. There was like one high school, right? You have to drive like 45 minutes to get to the next high school. Awesome town, right? Like wonderful place to grow up in. And we were always out, snow skiing, because snow skiing was like 30 minutes away. We were at the lake a ton, right? Wakeboarding, and that's like all my fondest memories are like, being outdoors, doing stuff, a bunch of golf courses, kind of a small town feel, but, a little too small sometimes for me. Right. And so that's why like Park City is great, because it has a small town feel, but at the same time, it feels like, everyone in the country knows it and is here at times.
Mm-hmm. And it's easy to get to.
Super easy to get to.
Yeah.
Brands from Tahoe, right? So we have a place in Tahoe that we just absolutely love, which you got to come to one of these days. That feels like home every time we're there. And it's just because we're like, literally, a good way to put this in perspective is if you would have seen our house in Orange County full of like toys and, stuffed animals and all sorts of, stuff for the girls, we literally haven't unpacked it from the garage. We've been here for 6 weeks. They haven't asked about a toy once. They haven't like wanted to do anything other than like do all the stuff we're doing, right? And like spending good time together. And so it's more energetically like probably where we're supposed to be,
Yeah, there's a lot for kids to do in nature and play outside, and especially when it's an environment that has a bit more space and they can explore, but safely explore, right? I mean, that's a really nice aspect of being in a place like that. But I'm super curious, 12,000 people is a super small town. Like, I mean, I can't get I thought I grew up in a small town. It was like 120,000. So this is like,
That's big for most towns.
1/10, right? And so, but then, you did all these sports, but you obviously became really good at them. I mean, look, you're an outstanding athlete, period, in so many ways. And I'm wondering, like, how did you get good in a small town like that? You had nobody to compete with you. You're just naturally good at water skiing, good golfer, all these things. Or, was there any competition, or are you just like this guy that killed everybody?
No, I was actually
karate. I mean, fuck. You're a black belt in karate too. So
I was other than like martial arts, right? Like I excelled there, but otherwise I was good at everything, but great at nothing, right? Like, like it's all subjective, right? But I was never going to be a professional in any sport, right? Like it was, I was good enough at them and I could do them, but I think it really stems from my like competitive nature and my martial arts background.
Where do you think the competitive nature comes from? Is there any pivotal moment in your life that you can access, or is it just like ever since you were young, you were competitive?
I have I've thought about that quite a bit, and you and I have had some conversations around it, but I don't know. I think it's just a inherent quality or trait, because I don't know, maybe it's like the pugilistic nature of the sports I was in early. Like, so my first sport was martial arts when I was 4. Boxing really early, wrestling really early. All sports where like, if you're not good, it hurts type thing,
Interesting. Yeah.
So that could have just carried over into like, all the other stuff that I did.
I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast recently. I don't remember who he had on the show. It might've been Lex Friedman. And, they were talking about, it's in our nature to be pushed to the edges of things and to learn to push through it. But a lot of people never are indoctrinated to that at an early age. And that's kind of the benefit of sports and competitive activities, right? Is that you kind of get used to losing in something, being pushed to the edge, those types of things. And, you push through it. It gives you confidence in yourself, So, because you're somebody who has a lot of confidence, except for when you're playing me for money in golf, but I understand. But other than that, you always have a lot of confidence.
Pickleball.
Yeah, you guys smoked us in pickleball for sure. That was embarrassing.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just like, what do you think? You said you've kicked it around, like, you're just ultra driven. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think drive and competition are different things, right? Like the competitive nature, I'm not sure what comes from that. The drive is like this fear of not realizing my fullest potential. I heard something a while back. I don't know how long ago, probably would be good to know, but someone said the definition of hell is when the person you are when you die meets the person you could have become at your fullest potential. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a terrible thing, right? Like, what if you meet this person you could have become and you're like, I had that in me, but you just never found it?
Yeah. That's an interesting narrative, right? You're telling yourself a really powerful story there, right? And I think that's a beautiful share, because it's always important we're going to break down lots of things, tactical to business here in a bit, but like, I think that it's really important to understand beyond the tactics, what's the energy. And like, you have a consistent energy behind wanting to, grow your business, grow in other aspects of your life, etc. And you're not the kind of guy that needs to be told to do it. And what I heard you say was fear, right? That's always a fuel. It's actually, I think, the fuel from what I've examined that is most powerful in a lot of ways. People take a lot of actions to run away from fear, like worried about the alternative type stuff. So to not like realize your fullest potential, that's like using fear as your friend, And how long have you thought that way for? Like, when did you start actively thinking about, I need to reach my fullest potential? Was that taught to you when you were a kid, or did you learn it on your own?
I think it might have just been realized as I was a kid, right? Like it was very clear to me that if I practiced something that I could get good at it, right? Like I could see results quickly, right? And so why not do that in every aspect of life, right? Like that's why, I take coaching with you and the L360 group. Like it's that to me is a practice where I'm not the best version of myself. And when I heard you talk and I heard what the group does, I was like, that wasn't okay with me, that I knew that that existed and I wasn't that person. Right. So I was like, I'm going to go practice this until I get good at it. Right. And so I think just examining every corner of my life and like fatherhood and being a good husband and be a good son and a good leader, a good learner, a good friend, right? Like I analyze those things a lot and I ask myself, like, am I the best at that? And if not, then I want coaching, I want help, I want to practice until I get there. Because it scares me to leave anything, for like a basketball analogy, to not leave anything on the court,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. As the inverse of that, do you ever feel like you're going so hard that you compromise or sacrifice anything? Like is something being sacrificed as a result of the drive, the extreme drive, or do you view it all as just net positive stuff?
It's funny because I had two thoughts like almost simultaneously when you said that. And one part of me said yes, the other part said no, like at the same time.
Now that makes sense. Tell me more. Say more about that, but that totally makes sense to me.
So you said, like, is there any negative aspect? Or what, something always falls off the table. Like Danny uses an analogy with me one time. He's like, if you have a full table and you put something else on the table, well, something else is going to fall off, right? Maybe it's so far away that you don't see it. Mm-hmm. Maybe it might have been you who told me that.
I'd love to take credit for that one, brother, but that wasn't me. First time I've heard it, actually.
And I would always put something more on the table, which was the positive because it helped me grow. It helped me do more. It helped me see more. But like, there's always something that I don't see that falls off the table. And I realize it at some point. I pick it back up, put it on the table, and something else falls off, right? So it's kind of like a good and a bad thing where I'm always trying to grow and put more cups on the table, but some are inevitably gonna, sometimes friendships suffer because I'm focused on family and work. But there's also seasons of life where you have to just know that that's okay, right? And as long as you don't completely forget about it and you can circle back up, pick up that dish, put it back on at some point, right? So I think the answer was yes and no at the same time.
It's a good answer because I don't think it is absolute, right? Like, I mean, there's pros, there's areas of awareness of, wow, this is what's suffering as a result, and then you try to rebalance and recalibrate. I did this one thing for a while. I haven't done it maybe in 6 months, but it worked really good for like 2 years, where I just made a list of friends in my to-doist, like 20 friends, and I'm like, I want to stay in touch with these people. Okay, like this is bullshit. Like I'm only in touch with them like every once in a while, and these are like life friends. And so I just put it my to-doist, and then I just made a commitment that whenever I go drive somewhere for 30 minutes, instead of listening to the radio or gelling out, I call one of them. I just boom, go to the list and call. Hey, how's it going? Even if I'm just leaving a voicemail and we're trading a couple of voicemails, it's better than haven't talked to you in 9.5 months, bro. How you been? So
well, the longer the separation, the harder it is, right? Because it's like, I don't know, I haven't talked to him in a while, right? So you kind of justify not calling. Well, that'd be weird because and like every month that goes by, it gets worse, right?
Well, yeah, because then you start getting in your own head, and you're like, man, I'm really a jerk, and
right.
what an ass I am. Now it's like the loan officer who doesn't stay in touch with their database for 4 years and a refi boom hits, and then they're like, shit, like I got a lot of people I could call, but I don't know if they're going to be mad at me or if they're going to even remember who I am. So then they don't call. I mean, that's always a dynamic. So, all right, back to your childhood. So.
Real quick, one question before my childhood.
Yeah.
Did I make the list of your 20 people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, did you make the list of the 20? To be honest with you, no, you didn't, man. You're asking an honest answer, but you're on my next list. How's that? Okay, I'm going to make a note of that right now.
We'll be 21.
So, was there a pivotal moment in your childhood that you would say shaped you in any meaningful way? It doesn't have to be related to what your drive is. It can be, but just anything, like something from your childhood that.
Well, man, this is one, like, it's weird because this is one part of my life where I am insecure. right? Like I'm not insecure in a lot of things, but the most inspirational people, the leaders, the people that I see that like have the best story, right? They've always overcome something, right? They've always started from the bottom, right? Or they had a setback in life, or they, like there's a lot of people at Neo where, the reason we're so driven to change this industry is because of the childhoods and the lack of financial education and the insecurity and the impact. And, a lot of these stories, and then here I am with it, lived a great, like, not a damn thing wrong with my life, right? Growing up. I mean, amazing parents, weren't rich, but, probably upper middle class, especially for Sonora, right? We never were wanting for anything. Got to play every sport I wanted. School came pretty easy, got good grades, went to an awesome college, right? Like my parents paid for college, which is like, an incredible gift, right? Especially knowing how much it costs. There was nothing that I could pinpoint to say like this shaped me. And that's like a weird insecurity I have, because it's like, I go and tell a story. It was like, well, you started on third base, right? Like it's not that hard.
Yeah. I'm not saying, that's what I think, but I'm saying, I could see where you'd frame it up that way. I mean, I don't know, like maybe we could look at that, if you don't mind me saying, like just was sitting here listening going, well, maybe that's just, maybe it's not even worth it to question why you didn't have to overcome something, and just accept the fact that you've been very fortunate, and you're going to take that good fortune and do the very best that you can with it and help as many people as you can with that fortune.
I love that. I do. But my insecurity is that I've never heard that story that's like moved somebody.
Why do you need to move somebody?
Well, I mean, to like, the fact that we're starting a movement with our mortgage company, right? Like the fact that we're, trying to inspire the people to be better versions of themselves, right? Not just as a mortgage professional, but as a genuine human being, right? So if I'm trying to have that type of impact in a couple different areas, I've never heard that. You go to all these speeches and it's like, wow, that was amazing. He went from here to here, or she did this and that, and she overcame. You never heard the guy that's like, I literally have had zero problems, amazing friends, like amazing family, like this, life that I would only dream of. But here's why we should go do this, right?
Yeah, but I think that there might be, look, it's easy to go to these like experiences that we view as the iconic classic leadership, visionary inspirers, and you can, list off all the famous ones. But I also think that there are a lot of great leaders that inspire in a different way. So look at the guy from Patagonia. Did you see that story from like a couple of days ago? I don't know that much about the story, but what I do know is that this guy was just a guy who started a company in 1971, I believe, and has consistently kept on his mission, and his employees love working there. And it's been to be able to be, eco-conscious, right? And now he got to a point where he just gave his company to environmental change. Like that's,
yeah.
Dude, that's moving. When I read that, I was like, and that's not like somebody who went from rags to riches. It's just somebody who had their heart in a certain direction and followed it hard and led from that place.
Yeah, I think it's a good awareness. Like this, there's a lot of these stories of inspiration that I just may be looking for that classic,
You want to be Rudy.
Started from the bottom, now you're up.
You want to come out of the tunnel with the gold helmet and you're on the team's shoulders.
Who doesn't want to be Rudy?
You want to be Seabiscuit. Like I know all of the, the drama here that you're conjuring up around who, the pursuit of happiness guy, etc. Okay. So you got us to, you get past, Sonora, and you go to college and you get into the mortgage business. And did that come pretty easy, would you say? I mean, what were your experiences initially in the mortgage business, and were there any challenges you had to break through?
The story I tell a lot of people, just because I like stupid jokes, is, they're like, oh, how did you get in the mortgage business? And I was like, well, I just grew up, always wanted to be like a loan officer. And they look at me super funny. And I was like, yeah, I had like a poster of Tim Braheem on my wall. It was like, and and then
They're
obviously,
like, who's Tim Braheem? I mean,
um, but no, I was going to be an attorney. My whole young childhood career, I was, I did all the law stuff. I interned at legal practices. I went to DC for like young lawyer stuff, and so I went to college, studied political science and law, and just did not want, like, learned that being an attorney was not a thing that I wanted to do. Like, I just saw like a lot of the downfalls of human society in that practice, and none of the attorneys were happy. And so um, ended up just kind of taking a year off, and in that year off, found the mortgage industry. My now brother-in-law called, and he was like, hey, I made a lot of money my first month in the mortgage industry. And I was like, what's a mortgage? And is there one of those companies around here? And
yeah.
it happened.
Opportunity to make money, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I cared about, right? Because I just needed money for law school. And that was just like, okay, I can make it, and then I'll go. And because I was so disenchanted with the legal industry, and because the money came so easily back then and so quickly, I was like, well, maybe I'm just going to give this a shot. Unfortunately, I learned literally nothing for the first, 4 or 5 years, because it was just subprime call center stuff. And so I was just under the impression that that was the industry and that's how it worked. So I was going to actually, in 2011, was going to go, I was going to leave the mortgage industry because I was just fed up, like the ups and the downs, and I just wasn't fulfilled there. So I was going to go to business school. And my dad was like, hey, like, why don't you try going to, talk to realtors and like have them send you business, like use your personality. And I was like, I don't even think that's a thing. I was like, I'm pretty sure you just send out mailers and then people call you for refinances.
I know it's another sport that you have yet to master that you're getting ready to engage in. Keep going.
Right. And I was like, yeah, I guess, like, I'll give it one more shot. And so I remember I joined iMortgage March of 2011, no past client database, no CRMs, never met a realtor, never done a purchase. This is 5 years, almost 6 years since I started. Right. So, and I was massively in debt, underwater on my house, right? Like, it was grim. And I was like, all right, what do I do? And they're like, you got to go to open houses and broker previews. And I was like, what's a broker preview? You go to some strange restaurant and everybody gathers there, and realtors talk about their listings and their properties, and then you can like network and they'll start to send you loans. I was like, all right, give it a shot. And it was ugly for a while, like real ugly.
Did it stretch you? Did it like stretch your personality?
Well, I mean, I'm not the guy who walks into a room and
me neither.
Lights it up, right?
Yeah.
I'm the guy who walks in, stands in the back, kind of surveys it, like, am I safe, right? So I remember the first time I went, and they're like, you just have to stand up and just introduce yourself and say something about yourself. And public speaking was very low on my skill chart. So I like quickly wrote something out and like brought this was like a 20-second thing. I like brought the piece of paper up with me. I'm standing in front of an audience of like 12 people, right? Because these things aren't very well attended at times. And keep in mind, this was just coming out of like the recession. And you could see the piece of paper shaking, like visibly. Like, it wasn't just me, the whole audience saw me like shaking a piece of paper, trying to read my name and say something about myself. And I just remember I was like, I don't think I can do this. Like, there was a time I drove up to an open house. I had 3 open houses. I almost feel weird admitting this. I had 3 open houses to go to on a Sunday. And the Friday or Thursday before, I worked with the marketing team. We created flyers. They were co-branded. They had all these things, right? And I pull up to the first house, and I just blatantly talk myself into why I shouldn't go in there. Like, it wasn't even close. I was like, no, like, it's weird. I can't see the front door. I'm just going to go. So I go to the second house. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to go to the third house. And I sat outside of the third house for like 30 minutes. And I was like, I don't want to just go in there. Like, they don't know me. I don't know what to say, right? Like, I was like, I'll do it later. So I leave and go back home. And Bran was like, how was your day?
Oh, you were with Brianne at the time already.
Yeah, she was my girlfriend.
Okay.
She's like, how'd your day go? Because she knew I was trying to build my business and like, struggling through it. And I was like, oh, it was awesome.
Yeah, you had to show your woman that you're a man, right?
Flat
You had
out
to
lie,
you couldn't.
right? I'm like, oh no, baby. Actually, I drove to every house, told myself why I shouldn't go in, and left with like a dog with my tail between my legs.
Yeah.
So that was the start of my mortgage career.
So stop 1 second, okay? Because I want to call something to your awareness. I don't know if if you're aware of this, but for me, I'm sitting here and I'm going, well, I mean, first of all, I could relate to so much of what you said. Like I did all that shit. Like, I mean, man, I could tell you stories about flyers that I met my attorney indirectly through doing a photo brochure with glue stick and Polaroid prints on the photo brochure, dude. This is like around the time of Christ, I think. So, but yes, the same thing, same trepidation, same like, what the hell am I doing here? But bro, you just told your story.
What do you, how do
If you want the story, tell that one. That's a great story. And especially right now, that's an inspirational story, man. Like people look at you and they're like, man, he's got his shit totally together, and guy's a good speaker, handsome guy, smart, works with great partners, great teacher, can do a flip over a wake on the back of a boat, all kinds of crazy shit. But you worked hard. You confronted your fears. You ran into that's such a real story. I felt all of it. I mean, I experienced it. There's so many people out there experiencing it right now. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's what it took. You did what it took. Right? I mean, let's play. I mean, what do you think about that? So are there originators in today's marketplace that just straight up aren't doing what they can to make it happen?
Yeah.
And what do you have to say to them? Like, what's your advice?
I mean, it's probably a bit of a pivot, but it depends on where they are in their season of life, right? Because what I've found is a lot of people aren't doing like the hard work that needs to be done now because they've gotten comfortable, right? Like you've been in this business for the last 10 years, right? Like you're likely at a pretty comfortable position, right? Where, and you also have had the last 10 years of not really having to do super hard, uncomfortable work where it pushes you out of your comfort zone, right? So like that audience is different than the audience who was in a similar situation to me, right? The people that need to make a dollar like now, or life, it gets real hard, right? Like I was in that position. Like I didn't have a choice, right? Like I would have lost a lot of things. I would have, but like there's two groups of people, there's many groups, but like there's two kind of factions to me, which is one is the mortgage professional who's been in it for a while, who's comfortable and who's already climbed the first mountain and they're not quite sure if they want to climb the second one. Right? And then there's the person who's like, I'm just climbing my first mountain here. Right. So I'd give different advice to those two groups.
Great answer. And I think there's a third group, which is the people who have climbed the mountain the first time and have said, I'm willing to go sit in the valley in between this mountain and the next one and then climb that one. You know what I mean? I'll just kind of cruise for a couple of years and wait till there's another refi boom, which
I would put that more in the first category. Like, they climbed the first mountain and they're not at the bottom of it, but they're going to ascend the last part again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Opens up. Right. So yeah, that's a good takeaway.
So let's talk about like, what do you think the person who's just getting started right now that hasn't climbed that mountain yet?
I think that person
or hold on just 1 second. I think in that category is the person who did well for maybe 5 years. So they got a taste of what is possible, but have never experienced having to climb to get there, really. Like they just bumped up to that 10, 15 loan a month.
They got the elevator to the top.
Yeah. Yeah. And so speak to both of those, please.
So I think the person that has the biggest advantage is the person starting at the bottom right now, right? Like they don't have an option, right? They have to go to the open houses. They have to make the phone calls, right? They have to um, collectively work databases with partners. They have to get super creative, and they have to have 6+ conversations per day with current or prospective homeowners. Like, they're not going to leave the office till that happens. They're not going to, like, they don't have a choice. That to me is the most dangerous group of people in the mortgage industry, because that's going to be the next crop, right? Like, that was me 12 years ago, right? Or 11 years ago.
And me 20 years ago.
Right. And so, like, nobody saw that group coming, but there's a lot of us that are kind of at this stage now that are kind of my similar age and demographic, that, like, we climbed a really tough mountain, right? Where we had to work our ass off because we had no other option, and we're not done. Right. So, like, we got another 20 years of mountain climbing to do, right? Like, this group that's just starting at the bottom now, that's going to be their future. Either that or they're going to leave the industry because it's too hard, right? But the ones that do the work and see it as an opportunity, not as a mountain, right? Like, their opportunity is that no one else is going to do it. Like, I remember I was going to every open house. Like, once I got the balls to go in, I was going to every open house, every event. Like, thankfully I didn't have kids, and Bran was very aware that I was trying to build something, right? So she gave me a lot of grace to go do those things. But I was everywhere, like, just hustled, right? And that's what, if the people that do that now, like, I will literally tell you, the next 10 years are going to be super fun for you, right? If you go do that.
It's like your bro, our bro Josh says, it's a contact sport.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's just, if you get into it and it's not if it's during the season, when it's not, you don't even know that it is. But at the end of the day, it is.
And the cool thing, Tim, is back then, I didn't know anything that I know now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I literally just went there and said, hey, like, use me. Why? I don't know. Because I got flyers, right?
Correct.
Like, and I build a business off of that terrible value proposition, right? Yeah. Like, now we have this, what Danny refers to as a weapon of mass destruction from a value proposition perspective, right? Like, we're completely offering a different product. And so, like, if you're starting this business now and you have a whole different product to sell that is like the product people need, dude, it's crazy. Right? Like,
what is the product that people need? I know because I've heard you talk about it, but I don't want to presume that somebody listening knows what you're talking about. The WMD that you guys are lugging around with you and threatening to push the button on. What's that about? Tell us about it in all seriousness.
I mean, when interest rates, I have a hard time saying this without realizing that I may offend some people, right? Because it's not my intention, but interest rates were in the 6s through pretty much all the 2000s, right? And then right around 2009-ish, they started dropping a little bit, went up a little bit again in 2010, but then in 2011, they went down and down and down and down and down and down and down, right? The average consumer just needed a lower interest rate or wanted a lower interest rate, and we were there to give it to them, right? Like, flat out. We could always save them money, and they could buy a home, they could buy another one, they could buy another one. And so our value proposition really only needed to be, hey, we're fast, we're effective, we communicate well, right? We have competitive interest rates, never the best, but competitive. We have great customer service. Like, you could build a phenomenal mortgage business off of that. And that was really the only thing the consumer expected. The problem is, it's not what they needed, right? Like, they just expected a mortgage, but what they actually needed was someone to help them navigate their way through life, right? Not just to own a home, but to be a really successful homeowner in every aspect of real estate and finance. And that's just not going to happen with most people, because wealthy people aren't wealthy because they have money. They're wealthy because they have information. And the mortgage industry has the largest opportunity to impact the greatest number of people in the country, because they are going to reach out to us well before they would ever reach out to a financial planner and estate planning attorney. And most of the time, we'd be the only financial professionals they connect with. So not only do we have the opportunity to help people change their financial livelihood and really grow generational wealth, but I think we have the responsibility to do it as well. Right. And so that's what we offer. Right. We don't just offer a mortgage, we offer 30 plus years of advice and guidance and strategy and planning around like the average human being, right? To help that person in ways that they didn't know would be offered to them. Right. Everyone thinks they have to figure that out on their own, but they don't. Right. We can help them with it.
Well, it's all, it's all cyclical, right? Like, so it's like when you get into the business and it's just about taking orders, then you don't get into the business with an understanding of the expertise that you must possess. Back in the day, I think this was when you were probably, I don't know, you're probably doing karate still. So you're about like 11. I did this pyramid called the Pyramid of a Complete Loan Officer. And at the foundational level of the pyramid was essential knowledge, which was underwriting guidelines, the market, understanding what makes the economics move and affect rates, like these foundationally important things. Yes. And I was to say, I wasn't that's the point I was actually going to make, is I wasn't as dialed in with that part, which is I think the part you've really added and up-leveled. But here's the thing. The reason that that's the foundational layer is because it drives what's above it, which is selling and presentation and then marketing, et cetera. So it's like you can't sell if you know that you don't know shit. Like, I mean, you have to feel like you have something in your arsenal or you're going to have call reluctance. So that's why I love so much what you're doing here is you're teaching something critically important that is a prerequisite to everything else in a lot of ways. Keep going with it.
I mean, just think about what we expect of our client as a mortgage professional, right? Like, just try and comprehend this for a second. We expect them, the average person who gets no financial education in their high school, in their college, right? There's no personal finance education anywhere in our society, right? But we expect that person to decide if they're going to buy a massive, home or a home with a massive debt. We assume that they're going to know how to protect that home and their greater livelihood through insurance and life insurance and so on and so forth. We expect that they're going to figure out how to grow their wealth and retire with real estate and other areas. Right? We expect them to understand the tax ramifications of being a homeowner and how to maximize that and improve it over time. We expect them to, understand what to do with their entire estate, with wills and trusts and that type of stuff. Right? We expect them to understand how to incorporate their parents and their children into that larger financial equation. And look, I'm fortunate I get to speak a lot of events, and I ask this question to every audience. And every audience is full of realtors and lenders. And I say, raise your hand if you're 100% confident in all the things you're doing in your real estate and financial life right now yourself. Guess how many hands go up?
I mean, very few.
Almost none, all the time. Right? Like maybe you get an alligator arm every now and then, right? But nobody's like, yeah, I'm dialed in. Because no one even teaches them. So how the hell do we expect our clients to reach any sort of financial literacy or financial freedom point, or like to really grow their wealth, if we don't even know it? Right? So like if we're just selling debt, let's just be honest with ourselves. We're just selling debt. Right? And one of my biggest pet peeves is when I ask someone like, hey, why do you do this? Like, why are you in this business? I love helping people. It's like, bro.
I hate that answer, dude. That was like the answer that's the answer that I used to hear from like 75 to 100 people at like the seminars that I used to go to back in the day in Palm Springs. And I would be like, you don't even know what that means, man. Like, what do you mean? How are you helping them? I mean,
that's
keep
the thing,
going.
right? It's like, if you really wanted to help them, well, first of all, let's imagine if I don't help them, there's like 300,000 other loan officers that would quote unquote help them. We're just completing a transaction, right? We're intaking information, we're doing math, we're delivering them their options, they're picking an option, we're closing that loan, and then they get like recipe emails, and don't forget to change your clock emails, right? We market to them to stay top of mind. But if we really wanted to help, like let's let's do some, let's get that family to a place that they wouldn't be without us. Let's put it that way. Right? Like, let's not assume that after the transaction's done, that they're going to magically turn into this successful homeowner.
Well, and I mean, it's such a huge win-win formula too, because the thing is that that's what builds loyalty and repeat customer business and tons of referrals. Is you don't have to make it so hard. You just have to work smart. I mean, what you're talking about is becoming a valuable human being in that person's life and a resource. You don't need that many people that feel that way about you to where you're just killing it.
But you know what the biggest problem was with that, Tim, is that I think there's a lot of people who want to do that. I really do.
I just don't know where to get the education from.
It's not necessarily always, because there are some people that are highly educated that still want to do that. It's the systems, it's the process, it's the people, it's the infrastructure, right? Like, it's a lot of work to be able to really deliver that, right? Because you got a lot of people who want to buy homes today and you need to help them. But then you have hundreds, if not thousands of people you helped in the past. And you got to figure out, okay, well, how do I really help them at the same time as this? Right. And if you haven't built something substantial enough to solve those problems, right? And to, like, you can say client for life, but you better actually do something for that client in their life other than just call them when it's time to refinance. Because maybe for a lot of our clients, there may not be a better time, like a time to refinance, right? They have 2% interest rates.
Yeah, I guess I just realized something that kind of ties together what you just shared, which I 1,000% agree with, plus what you're sharing earlier. So it's like, I got in the business in 92. It was good. 93 was even better. 94 crashed. 95 was a little better. 96 was a little better. 97 was a little better. 98 was really good, for me at least, and I think for most. Crashed again 99, 2000. So I went through 2 crashes. And when I think back to the crashes, or what I used to call the valleys, right? You have the peaks and the valleys. It's during the crashes that I built my systems. The crash of 94 is where I built my database management system that I used to always talk about and stayed in touch with my past clients using ACT. And then 99 is when I built the perfect loan process. The 2 most important systems that I ever had, the only 2 systems really of significance that I had, but they were both incredibly valuable, but they were built during this time, right now, not when you're, firefighting with tons of refis. So say more. And I'm sorry I derailed you a little, but you really just kind of got me locked in on that.
Well, I think, again, there's a lot of people that want to be the helpful person. Like, they really do. The intention is there, but the ability to execute, they haven't figured out, right? Like, you can't go get your MBA in how to run a mortgage practice, right? You have to figure it out somehow. And, the really smart ones get coaches. They don't try to figure it out on their own. They go, you know what? Smarter people that are more advanced in this career have already done this. I'm just going to go learn from them, right? So I would highly recommend everybody just get a freaking coach, right? Because it's like, I didn't know about coaching for the first almost 5 years of my career. And I thought I was doing it all right. And then I was like, wow, I'm not doing any of it right when I got exposed to that stuff, right? But, that's why I don't think, first of all, there's no company that I know of that actually has that as their mission or their goal. And if a company doesn't have it as their goal, it's going to be hard for the originator to actually go do it, right? Because they have to build it. And it took me a long time to build it, and a lot of smart people and a lot of, talented people who also believe what I believe. Like, this isn't just something that, one person created. Like, this is finding a shit ton of people who are really smart and passionate about changing the industry and saying, like, look, we got to figure this out. And everybody, and we're by no means even close to where we want to be, right? But like, that's why the average person says client for life, but then doesn't actually do it. It's not, and I don't think it's the intention. I think it's the capability or the execution.
Yeah, it's always like, you hear it from the stage, you're like, that's a great idea, and I see where this person's in a way better situation than me, so I'm going to do that too. But there's not a lot of, It's like it's actually interesting. So I don't know in which order these are going to air. So, yesterday my conversation was with David Allen. And one of the things that we were talking about is that he brought up was we tend to think like, we write down on our to-do list. He used the example, mom's birthday. Okay. Or it could be database management, which would be an extreme example, or, presentation to realtor. Okay. But there's so much more to it than that. And then when you don't think about it from the perspective of how many steps there are to do it right, you typically abort. You get into it and you get overwhelmed and you say, shit, this is way bigger than I thought it would be. And you don't do it. And that's where having like a step-by-step process so you know what you're getting into is really, really important, and having the time to do it right. So keep going, but I want to take you somewhere else, but I want to see if you have more to share on this before I do.
On execution or on the concept?
Either one, the concept or the execution of the concept, which is, I believe, where you were starting to go. I mean, that's why you need a coach. You need somebody to plan it out with you, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, the concept essentially is, we get to look at a client and say, hey, like you think what you need is some help over the next 30 days, but what you actually need is some substantial help for the next 30 years. Right? Like no one's ever become wealthy by saving a quarter point in their interest rate. Right? Like people get wealthy because of being around sound advice giving people. Right. And so we, without going into all the minutia, that's the big picture of what we offer. And, it's hard, right? I'll just be honest. It's hard because I have this, you may have heard me use this analogy before, but you think about like the transition from horses to cars, right? So horses were the mode of transportation for all of, eternity until 1907 when Henry Ford builds the Model T. And people didn't just immediately jump off the horses and be like, oh shit, these cars are way better, and start driving them. It took 25 years for there to be more people driving cars than horses. Right. And so you think about like how long it takes to change someone's habits or thinking. I believe what we're trying to do is be the cars of the mortgage industry, right? Because for the last 80 years, since mortgages really existed, all people have ever wanted was low rate, decent customer service, right? Like low rate, low fee, good customer service, because that's all we advertise as an industry, right? That's literally all we say. That's all they hear. There's no marketing around how to be a successful homeowner. It's just low rate, right? And so we're trying to show them, hey, you thought you needed a horse or a low rate because you didn't know cars existed, right? The same way that you don't know what we do exists. So what you thought you wanted was a horse, but what you need is a car. Again, what you thought you wanted was a low rate, but what you need is this. And it's going to take a while for people to realize, oh shit, like, yeah, a low rate is not necessarily what we need, right? We need information, education, advice, guidance. We need like people to help us.
The education and a system for execution of the education, a system for selling. So it's like, first you have to have the education to be able to then develop and articulate confidently your value proposition that most importantly just makes sense. Like at the end of the day, I think that's like the strongest value proposition ever, is one that is irrefutably the right thing. Now, the originator needs to deliver on that shit. And that's always
see that too. Like,
yeah,
I would argue that 99% of America, if you ask me, what we do is irrefutably the thing they need, but they need to know that too, right? And it's up to us to be able to educate and influence them as to why that's appropriate.
Well, educate and influence them, but more important than educate and influence them, continue to educate oneself and have a system for continually adding value by following through, staying in touch with, and truly being that conduit and that value-added resource to the consumer, to your customer, to your referral partners. If you do that, which requires knowledge and requires a system, you're going to win. like you're going to frickin' win. Like that's where you win, game over, Ryan Grant pickleball. Like that type of win right there. Like, I mean,
You know what's
yeah,
interesting?
spike
It
it right into my ankles and then just shake my hand and say, good game.
Good effort.
Good effort. Yeah.
What's interesting is it's cool to see when people come in from other mortgage companies to Neo. At first it's like a lot of it's Greek to them, right? It's like they've just been doing mortgages one way, but they're inspired by the concept of what we're doing. They just don't have the tools and stuff yet. And so the number of like calls and videos that we've gotten in the past, just like the past couple of weeks from people. I mean, we had a guy, amazing dude, up, I won't say his name, but he's up in Vermont, and he sends me a text that just says like, hey man, like just wanted to say thank you. Like I thought I was good in the mortgage industry. But now I'm just like infinitely better. And now I have a long ways to go. Right. And we're just so pumped to be here. And, another guy that's, sending me a text, like showing me how what we taught him worked with the client. Like, you told me to talk about a home versus the home to help give the client the context, and that we're going to help him get from a home to the home. And I showed him how. And like the client wrote back, he's like, oh my God, like this is awesome. I didn't know people did this. He goes, this stuff's really working. Right. So you can see people that like see it working and they experience the impact it's having on their clients. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling thing, right? Because you see it working, you get the fulfillment of it working, you see the client being super excited about it, and you just want to go do more of it. Right. So, I think seeing it work and seeing it in action just drives you to want to be better and better and do more and more. Right. So it's a cool evolution to watch.
And I would have to imagine that for you, it's a very beautiful experience of your job is seeing someone, it's like back in the day, like it was, like you need students to be inspired to be a teacher, and when you have these students that implement and you're like, yeah, I know it works. Trust me, it works. Thank you for proving out that it works. Don't just buy the 8-track tape of Tim Braheem talking, buy the, do it. Right. So, okay. So I'm dropping you into another city. I'm going to take you, we're getting in a chopper. I'm dropping you in, whatever, Des Moines, Iowa, and Tyler Osby's moved away. He's in a different town.
I would never, Tyler. I wouldn't do it.
You've never been in the business. You have been in the business, knowing what you know now. Let me rephrase that. Your database blew up. I don't know, like a virus hit your database, wiped it all out. And Brian told you that you needed to move with her to Iowa, and you set up camp there, and you got to start all over.
Totally makes sense.
You're starting from scratch, and you've got a lot of bills on your farm, your big ass farm in Iowa. What are you doing? What's your game plan? What is your first 90 to 120 day game plan to make sure that you have success getting started in Des Moines, Iowa?
It's interesting. I don't know if anybody's asked me this question, at least if I haven't, at least not in a very long time. Right. So I haven't really been like prepared to answer it, but
well, that's good.
The initial response was, I just go back to what I was doing when I first started, because it was tried and true, but I would actually very much go about it a different way now. First I would, how I think it was it Lincoln who said, if I'm going to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend the first,
sharpening the axe.
Yeah. I'm going to sharpen the axe. Right.
Yeah.
I would sharpen the axe for 30 days, right? Not like lock yourself in a room, but like but like really focus on what your value proposition is and how you execute it. Right. Because if your strategy is just, well, I say it, but I did it, right? If the strategy was just go be there, there's going to be a bunch of other people there, right? So it's going to be harder. It's going to be a longer climb. You're going to have to just grind more and more and more. But if you get your value proposition, you're like the way you differentiate yourself from other mortgage professionals, if you really get that down and you're confident in how you deliver it, well, then I would go talk to agent, go to open house, and like tell the story differently, because it's so much faster at that point, right? Like, and then from there, I would get their referral clients, right? Because, when people see what we do, it's not like, no, we're good. We're going to keep our old way of doing things. Like they see, like the ones that see it are like, wow, okay. Like let's start working together. So there's immediacy of business that we can get, even if we're brand new, right? Even if I had never been in the business before. And then from there, I would adopt their databases. Right? And I would say, hey, look, let's do a video, right? So let's imagine you're the realtor, right? I'd say, Tim, I would love to do it because you have, 1,000 clients in your database that you've helped, right? We won't get into for how long that database has been going, right? But I would say, hey, this is what's happening with those clients. They think their home value is going down, right? They are worried about recession. They're probably going to credit card debt because of inflation, right? Their stock portfolio is down, right? Like they're in fear and they don't know what to do right now. And my assumption is you're probably, are you doing anything with those clients? Are you giving them any education? Every realtor and every lender would say, well, no. And I say, I want to do that for you. Let me go to work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call your clients and let's do a video. You can introduce me to all your clients. I will call them and I'm just going to ask them questions about where they are in their real estate financial world. And then I'm going to help solve some of those problems for them. All right. If I have to refer them to a CPA or a financial planner, if I have to help them, create more liquidity, right? A more emergency fund. If I need to help them get out of debt, if we need to help them plan for future real estate goals, I just want to have those conversations with your database. And I promise you 2 things will happen. One, we're going to find business opportunities from it. We're going to find people that want to buy and sell homes, and I'll find people that need financing in some way. But even if we don't, let's say we find 1 out of 100 that needs a transaction. Those other 99 are going to be blown away that we're helping them through this and no one else is. And we'll help them figure out when the next transaction is going to be. So we're not just going to hope they transact with us again. We're going to help them figure out when to buy, sell, or finance real estate. And then we'll just work with all of them towards those transactions. Right. So I'm either going to get you a transaction now or later, and the client's going to love it because they're getting help, right? Then I would just go do that. I would call every single person. Hey, Joe, Tim Braheem, your agent, sent out a video. Did you see it? I just wanted to connect and chat. Great. Let's talk through it. Right. I mean, between realtor active referrals and their databases, that's literally all any originator needs right now. And you could do that tomorrow, right? As long as you had the tools.
As long as you have the tools and as long as you have the confidence, right? So first of all, I'm not going to say it. You do well in Des Moines, Iowa. But what I would want to say is that first part is critical. And I don't know if it's 30 days or 60 days where you got to get the educational piece and your value proposition down. But then from there, the part that's, I think, the biggest hurdle for those listening that you feel like, oh, this is something that I need to be doing, is understanding that every at bat is critical and getting a lot of them is important, and having a lot of opportunities to practice and test and figure out what you're not saying right and massage it and tweak it and adjust it. But a lot of people are afraid of having conversations that don't end up in success, so they don't get out there as much as they should. And it's this balance between having enough education and needing to test it in the real world. And that's a suggestion that I have about tying both of these together. And, that includes the approach with the realtor, and offering to call their database, and the realtor saying, I don't even know you. What are you talking about? You're not getting into my database. Like, okay, I'll come back when I have an answer for that one in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go try with somebody else, and you'll figure it out. But you got to figure it out. That's the point. You got to keep climbing the mountain, as you say. I mean, you can't start to retreat. It might go back and forth rather than straight up, but as long as your trajectory is north from trying, you're going to get there eventually.
Yeah, literally that was my career. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And then I said something and it worked. And I said something else and it didn't. I'm like, okay, we're not going to do that again. Right. Let's go figure out how to overcome that objection. Let's go do this. And you keep trying to figure out how to solve problems. Right. And at some point, it almost doesn't matter what the problem is. You've had so many of them that are close enough that you're going to figure out how to solve that one. Right. Just because it's the repetition and the at bat. So yeah, that's what I would do. Right. If you put me if I was brand new and you put me into town, then yeah, a realtor could say, I don't know you. I don't want you calling my database. Be like, let me try it with you first. right? Let me just show you how it would work. And then you blow their mind. They're like, wow, okay. Yeah, I can see how that would be helpful. Great. Give me 10. I don't need your whole database. Give me 10 people and then ask for their feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. Like, so there's an answer to every problem if you're brand new, right? But you just have to work through them.
I love what you said there. I want to just repeat it. I'll say it a little bit differently, but like, you can't become a problem solver if the only way to learn how to be a problem solver is to actually solve problems. You have to try to solve problems to be able to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's not like, and that's the part that makes refi booms when a loan originator gets into the business the worst thing in a lot of ways, because they never learned how to be a problem solver. Now all of a sudden they have a shitload of problems and they don't even know where to begin and they're overwhelmed. And speaking of overwhelm, I want to ask you about that. So how do you deal with overwhelm? I mean, you got a busy schedule, man. Daddy to two beautiful young girls, husband, son, team all over the Rocky Mountain states and SoCal and everywhere. Lots going on. Your branch production, or your branch production, your region production, your division production, your teaching, your tribe. Your, like, you ever get overwhelmed, or is it just cruise control?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
How do you deal with it? Like, what's your go-to, man? Like, hole up? Do you plow through?
Yeah, I think it goes back to realizing the fullest potential. Not at now, but now it's not just of me, right? Like, we have some really incredible people that are here that if I work harder and focus more on what we're doing, then they get to realize the best and the most, their fullest potential, right? So it's almost like that drives me more than anything else now, right? Because it's like, let's say I reach my fullest potential and I make a big impact on 100 lives, right? But what if I, worked really hard and helped all 100 of those people become their fullest potential? Then they helped, 100,000, right? And then the scale keeps going, right? And so that's, when I think about overwhelm right now, I just probably compartmentalize a lot of it. I have some very clear like starts and stops, right? Like it's family time, it's family time. Like, I put my phone down, I don't look at it. And, if it's like, I don't try and do both. And I learned that, in large part from you, right? But I just try and be present with where I am now. I'm by no means perfect at it. But when you're present where you are, I think overwhelm becomes less impactful in your life because you just always feel like you're where you're supposed to be, right? If you allow yourself to be working while you're with your family, while you're trying to get in a workout, while you're trying to, do other things or, accomplish other things, like, you're always going to feel overwhelmed. But like, when I'm at yoga in the morning, when I'm at boxing in the morning, it's an hour where it's like, I'm not thinking about anything else, right? Like, I'm not doing, if I'm golfing, if I'm with the girls, we did a daddy-daughter date the other night, like, there's just no chance I'm answering the phone or doing anything else other than being there with them. So like, I think that's where overwhelm, at least for me, creates separation from all of it being so big.
So you have what I'm hearing is a really refined attunement to how to turn it off and turn it back on and move from one compartmentalized experience to another. Do you think that just came naturally to you, or is there anything that you did to work on that?
No. Finely attuned might be too kind. There's time, again, I don't want people to think that like, oh, he can just do that. Like, there's a ton of times where I don't, and I feel overwhelmed and I'm like, okay, but I just try and realize it and stop it. Right. So, but I remember being in the Gottwald living room in Costa Rica, and I was like, how the hell am I going to sit through 7 days, like, without looking at my email or my cell phone? Right. Like, how is that even going to be humanly possible? And then, how am I gonna, not be able to answer the phone? And like, there was just so many times where I had no clue how I was gonna find that. Um, but it's the, what I found over time is it's like, it's the who's you have in your life, not the hows that make that easier. Because I always do, how am I gonna get through 7 days? Well, you know how you're gonna get through 7 days? You have a team of people who are amazing, who are gonna do everything that they need to do. Just trust them and let it happen. Okay. Right. Like I focused on the who's in life that made the hows a lot easier, but realizing it's the first step, right? Like realizing that you need to be where you are, right? Like, you know, I think be where your feet are. Like, you know, like if I'm here talking to you and I'm, trying to answer emails, like, and kind of half listening to you, then like I would feel super overwhelmed. Like, God damn, there's too much to do. But I haven't, other than my dog being flung in here one time, right? Like, this is where we are, right? So I don't feel overwhelmed.
Well, I mean, that's where presence and, life, like another David Allen thing we were talking about is that life can be a meditation. Like, I mean, that's really the goal, right? It's where, I mean, if you are present with what you're doing, then you're in meditation by definition, and life just gets better. The overwhelm, to your point, which is really a good point. I don't think I've ever even considered it that way, is when you're trying to be somewhere that you're not, or when you're thinking of, meaning you're thinking about things that are not yet there, that are in the future, that you can't do anything about. And yeah, that's where all the fear creeps in. That's an outstanding point. Let's see. What are you working on right now on a personal level in your life? Anything?
I think it's just a constant balance, right? Like, but there's a couple, or for like the next 3 weeks, we're pretty committed to a lot of things in work, right? We have a production trip where all of our, change makers club is happening. We have, to be out and speaking at a bunch of different events. We have, just some things coming up where I'm going to be away from the girls, Brianne at times, and then Brianne will be with me at times, but I'm going to be away and just mentally trying to work through like, hey, look, there's going to be these brief windows where you're over committed to being away, but just be aware of it and don't let it happen too often, right? So I think grace, right? Like giving myself grace for the purposeful imbalances of life, right? Because life is always going to be imbalanced, but there's times when it's purposefully imbalanced. Like you're like, okay, for 60, 90 days, I got to focus on this. So the next, 6 to 9 months or 6 to 9 years are really good. Right. And so just finding grace in that back and forth.
Yeah. I think that what I've battled with as it relates to that is I definitely went through a time where, the 60 to 90 days was over, or 6 months is over. And it's not even that I need to keep going hard, but I'm kind of addicted to going hard.
Yes.
And that like not going hard is kind of boring. And that's the
great point.
That's the dance, and finding some enjoyment in your own presence, some enjoyment in the presence of others. I mean, those types of things, I think, is also a skill, that needs to be practiced and cultivated. And now that's where I think, making sure that, especially with your, I mean, I know that you and Brianne, because she can, you guys have some help, so she could travel with you, but making sure that you've got that sacred time carved out with your two little girls, that's super, super important. Consistent too, goes by fast, goes by super fast.
Yeah. I'm realizing that.
What are you going to be speaking about in Vegas?
We are talking about the how to become the mortgage professional of the future, right? So I'll be on with Barry in the morning, and then on the Tuesday morning, and then I have another session on Wednesday, and then Josh and I are kind of going back to back, and it's kind of cool because I'm talking about the concept, and he's kind of talking about the process a little bit, and so it's a cool opportunity for us to tell our story through, the philosophy and the execution at the same time. So excited about that.
Sounds exciting. I'm sure that you guys will kill it on stage and teach a lot of people some really important stuff. Let's go back to your 18-year-old self for the final question. So if you could have a conversation with the 18-year-old Ryan Grant in Sonora, California, I think you were still there when you were 18.
No, I was 17 in college.
Okay, so when you were in college.
Yeah.
What advice, given what you know now, would you give to the 18-year-old Ryan Grant?
Pick a topic.
Whatever comes to mind, bro.
And it's hard, right? Because I look back and think about what would I have done differently in college? What would I have done differently out of college? And the answer is obviously a million things, but I also learned a ton from those things, and I enjoyed a lot of them, and I, am here because of them, right? So I don't know. Sometimes, I think I would have just gone right into the mortgage industry, right? Like, it was 2000, right? So if I didn't miss 5 years, right? 4 years of college and then trying to figure it out for another half year, like, what would that look like? But then
you would have started when? Like what year?
I would have started in September of 2000.
Would have been harder than when you got in, right? No, wait, in 2000?
Yeah, 2000 was great.
No, 2000. Wait, you started in 2005. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had a couple of like the years where the market was still doing well, right? But
yeah. No, 2000 was fantastic. 01, 02, 03, 04, epic years. Yeah. So, but wait a minute. But then let's hold on.
Yeah, but then I would have missed so many things.
Well, then you would have maybe been the lazy guy that just, like didn't have to work hard and then got his teeth kicked in 05. And maybe who knows where it would have ended, right? You could incorporate this into your story if you want. If you want to have your inspirational story, man, there it is right there. I mean, you don't really know. You just know where you're at now. And every bit of it made you who you are, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, probably if we're just thinking high level, right? Because any decision would have a material impact. I would have just said, focus more on your potential, right? Because I know for a fact that I was not thinking about, I wasn't driven by reaching my fullest potential or the fear of not reaching my fullest potential back then, right? I was doing the things that I thought were necessary to live a good, successful life, but I wasn't like tapped into that place. So maybe I would just have tried to tap into that a little earlier, and whatever would have happened.
So was that like a quote that you heard? Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember who it was from? It had such a big impact on you, man.
Yeah, I don't remember. Maybe it was in a movie or something, but like, I just remember like viscerally being like, oh, like, could you imagine, right, what that would feel like? Like, you'd be so let down. I mean, another way to say that is, when Jesse came and talked to us in Laguna, right? Like, I also don't want to, be dying and realize that I lived the 80% version of my life.
Yeah. I want to be the 80% version of myself.
Right. Yep. So it's a similar, maybe that person was 20% better than you at life.
It's just a testament to how to use fear as your friend, man.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just juxtaposing the narrative. You could be like, I'm afraid to fail, or you could be, I'm afraid not to fail. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean,
we're having with a bunch of mortgage loan officers right now.
Yeah.
Right. Their fear is misplaced, right? Their fear is, what if this doesn't work out, or, what if I do this, or, their company's not, they're not doing great, and they want to change, but they're afraid of change. Like, well, what if, like, bro, what if, first of all, what if it all worked out and you were the 80% version of yourself? Or what if it all worked out and you could have been infinitely more valuable to your clients and your partners and your team, but you weren't? Like, shouldn't you be afraid of that? And they're like, oh shit, yeah, I guess.
And your kids and your wife I
Yeah.
mean, that you can spin that narrative right into the
You can go on
personal
and
one
on.
too. There's an amazing. You probably didn't have time today, but this morning Patricia Regan sent me. Do you know who Robert Greene is?
No, I saw the WhatsApp thread. I didn't get a chance to.
Watch it. It's really right where we're at right now in this conversation. But the thing that's super cool, it's a like a 12-minute video that's put to music with Robert Greene talking. He's a really brilliant guy, great author, and it's about reaching your fullest potential, like how to like tap into that extra 1% of your capabilities or whatever it is. But the person that he uses, that he talks about, is Leonardo da Vinci, and it's really well told, but and it's a great example to use. So I think you should watch it, and then maybe if you like it, circulate it to your team.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to watch that next. Let's talk about that.
I mean, that's super important too, is feeding your mind with positive stuff, man. Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I mean,
there are people that are close to me that struggle with that, right? That, it's a lot of news and a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and, it's cliche, but life is short. Like, let's focus on the positive stuff, right? Let's focus on the opportunities, right? Like, you could be afraid of everything always, right? You can live defensively your entire life, right? Just out of fear and uncertainty and what if this and what if that. Like, if you're not looking forward to the opportunity, if you don't see life as an opportunity, if you don't see the obstacles as the way, right, as Ryan Holiday would put it, right, then it's just, you're going to live a life that's unfulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah, there's another good thing for people to watch, and maybe you could watch this. Have you ever seen Finding Joe?
No.
So I actually just watched it again for like the third time, and I'm going to do a focus group on it for masters in the next iteration starting in November, and it's about Joseph Campbell, who is a very famous anthropologist. When I say it's about him, it's not about him. It's about a model that he created a long time ago that major motion pictures are built off of. Star Wars, the whole trilogy, Lord of the Rings, they're all based on the hero's journey.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And Finding Joe is about Campbell's hero's journey. And right now, what you're really talking about is a hero's journey. Like, when it's tough is when the hero in you needs to come out and face your fears, face your demons, and conquer and achieve. And that's a part of being human. And some people run away from that, or you were talking about Ryan Holiday and the obstacle being the way, and Campbell said, the cave that you fear to enter holds the treasures that you seek. That's the same thing. That's the path right there. So
another part of that hero's journey is that they need a guide.
Yeah.
Right. And most people don't ever seek that guide. They just believe that journey needs to be all on their own, right? Like, hero's journey has the hero, the guide, and then the antagonist, right? So if you have a guide, it gives you a better opportunity to be the hero.
Yeah. I mean, but you have to make sure there really isn't technically a guide. I don't believe in Campbell's hero's journey, but you are assisted by mystical figures, if you will, that help you through the journey. But it ultimately ends up, there's another famous line of his, is that if the path into the cave or the path into the forest is someone else's path, it's not yours. Meaning that you have to still confront your fears on your own. At the end of the day, like your call reluctance or whatever it is, your fears of anything in your life, including being a salesperson, that would be a cool thing to break down and teach. The hero's journey of a loan originator. Is that part 2 of mine and yours conversation in the 360 next time we talk?
Yeah, I've drawn a blank on his name. Brand Story. He talks about the hero's journey a lot, but he talks about, there's the hero and the guide, like Obi-Wan is the guide for, like in every movie, there's always a hero, but there's always someone guiding them, right? And that's, especially when you're, in our business, right? Like, you should never aim to be the hero of your own story, right? Like, you should aim to be the guide and help other people become the hero, right? Because, in doing that, right, like you become the best version of yourself and you help other people do the same thing, right? And so it's that's why I've been so appreciative of you as a coach and all the other great people that we surround ourselves with in that group, is that like it's all guides, right? But they're all experiencing their own, becoming their own hero at the same time.
Yes, well said. Very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guided by invisible hands is how he puts it. Really well said. I think that's a great place for us to conclude, man. Thank you. This was cool. I got to know you. I got to know you even better, which makes me super happy. And you're a great teacher, bro. And thank you for what you're doing for the mortgage industry. You're bringing a lot of value to a lot of people right now and opening up people's eyes to what their potential is that they didn't even know was a possibility. So wonderful work, man.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. This was fun. Thanks for having me on.
You got it, brother. I hope you have a great weekend. And to everybody else, stay tuned for the post-call coaching.